Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into the world of jelly pork, an enticing combination of flavors, textures, and culinary traditions. You think you know pork? You haven't a clue until you've tasted it set in its own glorious jelly. We're showcasing 7 delicious jelly pork dishes, each with its unique twist, each one guaranteed to elevate your palate from clueless to culinary genius. So, sharpen your knives, put on your aprons, and let's get this show on the road. First up, we're tackling a true classic pork aspic, or as those culinary geniuses in Eastern Europe call it, srnik mięsny. Now don't let the fancy name fool you, this dish is all about simple, bold flavors done right. We're talking tender, juicy pork, simmered to perfection in a rich, savory broth, then set into a beautiful, shimmering jelly. We begin by grabbing a large pot, something big enough to hold all your hopes and dreams, and chuck in your pork, onion, carrots, garlic, salt, and pepper. Don't be shy with the seasoning, folks. Cover it all with water and let it simmer for a good 2 to 3 hours. You want that pork so tender it practically melts in your mouth. Once your pork is cooked to perfection, fish it out of the broth and give it a chance to cool down. Now strain that beautiful broth. We don't want any of those sad, lonely bits ruining our masterpiece. While the broth is still warm, sprinkle your gelatin over a bit of cold water. This is called blooming, and it helps the gelatin dissolve properly. Once it's all plumped up, whisk it into the warm broth until it's completely dissolved. Layer the shredded pork in a mold, something with a bit of character, and gently pour the broth over it. Now cover your masterpiece and let it chill in the refrigerator overnight. Next up, we're crossing the channel and landing in France, the land of culinary sophistication, to tackle a true bistro classic, Terrine de Porc. Now this dish is not for the faint of heart. It's rich, it's decadent, it's packed with flavor, and it requires a bit of finesse, but trust me, the end result is worth every single minute of effort. First, grab yourself a large bowl and toss in your ground pork and pork belly. We want a good balance of textures here, something to really get those taste buds going. Add in your diced onion, minced garlic, a pinch of your favorite spices, and a good sprinkle of salt and pepper. Remember, seasoning is key. Now crack in a couple of eggs and add a dollop of cream. This will help bind everything together and add a touch of richness. Give it all a good mix, really get your hands in there and show that mixture who's boss. Now, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and grab your terrine mold. Pack your pork mixture tightly into the mold, making sure there are no air pockets. Smooth out the top, we're looking for a professional finish here, and cover it with a layer of foil. Place your terrine mold in a larger baking dish and fill the dish with hot water until it reaches halfway up the sides of the mold. Slide it into the preheated oven and bake for about an hour and a half. Once it's cooked, take it out of the oven and let it cool completely in the fridge. Once it's completely chilled, slice it up and serve it with some crusty bread and a nice glass of wine. For our third dish, we're going for something a little lighter, a little more refined, silverside jelly. This is the perfect appetizer to whet your appetite, a delicate balance of savory and refreshing flavors that'll have your guests begging for more. Grab a large pot and add your silverside, along with some roughly chopped carrots, celery, a few bay leaves, and a generous pinch of salt and pepper. Cover it all with water and let it simmer gently for a good 3 hours, or until the silverside is cooked through and tender. Once the silverside is cooked, carefully remove it from the pot and set it aside to cool. Now, strain that beautiful broth. We don't want any of those pesky bits ruining our elegant appetizer. While the broth is still warm, sprinkle your gelatin over a small amount of the cooled broth, just like we did with the pork aspic. Once it's all plumped up, whisk it into the remaining warm broth until it's completely dissolved. Now dice your cooled silverside into bite-sized cubes. Find yourself a nice mold, something with a bit of elegance, and layer the diced silverside in it. Now for those of you who like to live life on the wild side, who aren't afraid of a little culinary adventure, I present to you pork head cheese, or brawn, as it's sometimes known. This is a dish that's been enjoyed for centuries, a true testament to the resourcefulness of cooks in days gone by. Don't let the name scare you off. This dish is all about using every part of the animal and creating something truly special. Start by giving your pig's head a good clean, removing any hairs and rinsing it thoroughly. Now place it in a large pot with your chosen spices. I like to use a combination of bay leaves, peppercorns, juniper berries, and a good amount of salt. Cover the head with water and add a good splash of vinegar. This will help to tenderize the meat and add a lovely depth of flavor. Bring the pot to a boil, then reduce the heat to low and let it simmer gently for several hours, or until the meat is fall off the bone tender. You'll know it's ready when you can easily pull the meat away from the bone. Once the meat is cooked, carefully remove the head from the pot and set it aside to cool slightly. Now, strain that beautiful flavorful broth into a separate pot, discarding any solids. We'll be using this broth to create the jelly for our pork head cheese. Using your hands, carefully remove the meat from the head, discarding any bones, cartilage, and skin. Shred the meat into a large bowl, making sure to remove any lingering bits that you don't want in your finished dish. Now, return the strained broth to the stove and bring it to a boil. Reduce the heat and let it simmer until it has reduced and thickened slightly. Once the broth has reduced, pour it over the shredded meat, making sure that all the meat is coated. Line a loaf pan with plastic wrap, leaving some overhang on the sides. Get ready for a taste bud adventure as we travel to Vietnam to create a dish that's as beautiful as it is delicious. Vietnamese pork jelly, or Giò Heo. This is a dish that's bursting with fresh flavors, a delightful combination of savory, sweet, and tangy notes that'll have you craving more. Start by grabbing a large pot and adding your pork leg, along with a few slices of ginger, a generous pinch of salt, and enough water to cover. Bring the pot to a boil, then reduce the heat to low and let it simmer gently for 2 to 3 hours, or until the pork is fall off the bone tender. While the pork is simmering, prepare your herbs. Vietnamese coriander or rau ram is traditional, but you can also use cilantro or a combination of both. Wash and chop the herbs, then set them aside until you're ready to assemble the dish. Once the pork is cooked, carefully remove it from the pot and set it aside to cool. Strain the flavorful broth into a separate pot, discarding the solids. This broth will form the base of our delicious jelly. While the pork is cooling, prepare your gelatin. Sprinkle the gelatin over a small amount of the warm broth, just like we did with the previous dishes, and let it bloom for a few minutes. Once it's plumped up, whisk it into the remaining warm broth until it's completely dissolved. Now, shred the cooled pork, removing any bones or excess fat. You want nice, thin strands of pork for this dish. Find yourself a beautiful mold, something with a bit of elegance, and begin layering your ingredients. Start with a layer of shredded pork, followed by a sprinkling of your chopped herbs. Repeat the layers until you've used up all the pork and herbs. Let's face it, sometimes you just need a salad to cut through all the richness. But who says a salad can't be exciting? Our next dish, jelly pork salad, is here to prove that healthy can be delicious, and that jelly pork can be enjoyed in countless ways. First things first, grab your favorite chopping board and get those knives ready. We've got some veggie chopping to do. Dice up some crisp cucumbers, slice some juicy tomatoes, chop some red onion for a bit of bite, and shred some carrots for sweetness and color. Feel free to get creative here and add in any other veggies you fancy. The more the merrier, I say. Now for the star of the show, the jelly pork. Cube your pre-made jelly pork into bite-sized pieces ready to mingle with all those lovely veggies. Don't be shy, be generous with the pork. Toss all your chopped veggies and cubed jelly pork into a large bowl, ready for their dressing debut. In a separate bowl, whisk together some good quality olive oil, a splash of your favorite vinegar, a pinch of salt, and a good grind of black pepper. We're looking for a dressing that's tangy, refreshing, and complements the savory pork perfectly. For our final dish, we're tackling a true classic, a dish that graces potluck tables and family gatherings across the land, pork gelatin salad. Now I know what you're thinking. Gordon, you're going to elevate a gelatin salad? You bet your bottom dollar I am. We're taking this humble dish and giving it the respect it deserves, transforming it from a simple side to a show-stopping centerpiece. First, grab your cubed jelly pork and give it a rough chop, just to make sure it's ready to mingle with all the other delicious ingredients. Now for the veggies. We're looking for a mix of textures and flavors here, so dice up some celery for a bit of crunch, chop some red onion for a touch of sharpness, and add in some sweet peas for a pop of color. And of course, no pork gelatin salad would be complete without a generous handful of chopped gherkins. Those tangy little devils are what make this salad so darn addictive. Toss all your prepped ingredients into a large bowl, ready for their creamy makeover. Now, for the secret weapon mayonnaise. Yes, you heard me right, mayonnaise. But not just any mayonnaise, we're talking good quality, full-fat mayonnaise. The kind that adds a velvety richness and ties all those flavors together. Add a dollop or two to your salad depending on your preference, and give it a good stir. Now season your salad generously with salt and pepper. Remember, we're not afraid of flavor here. Give it a final stir, making sure everything is well combined and coated in that creamy, dreamy dressing. Now you have a couple of options for presenting your masterpiece. And there you have it, 7 delicious jelly pork dishes to impress your family and friends. Each recipe is unique, blending flavors and textures that truly highlight pork in a delightful way. From the classic pork aspic to the refreshing jelly pork salad, there's a dish here for every palate and every occasion. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing recipes. And let us know in the comments which jelly pork dish you'd like to try first. Thanks for watching and happy cooking. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other delicious recipes. Click the link on the left for our classic charcuterie board video, or catch our tips on how to make the perfect stock on the right. Happy cooking, and see you next time.